What's up, guys? My name is Aaron. Today I'm going to be reviewing American Vandal. This is a new Netflix show that stars Tyler Alvarez, Griffin Gluck, and Jamie Tatro. It's basically like a mockumentary show, basically centered on this high school scandal where penises are being drawn on teachers' cars. A delinquent student is the one that's called out and is accused of doing this. So he's expelled from school and he's charged with the crime of doing this scandal. And two kids are trying to kind of clear his name and try to see if he's even guilty or innocent of this crime. And it's basically like a mockumentary style show of this kind of silly premise. I saw a trailer for this like a couple months ago and I thought it was an interesting show. I saw that it came on Netflix today. I wasn't really anticipating the show and I just kind of gave it a watch and I just watched the entire thing in one day. This is to me a really fantastic show, really well written. I think it's definitely my favorite new show of 2017. I don't think there's anything at this level to me. I think one of the strongest aspects about this show is just its commitment to this style of show. It's like a documentary reality show where it's focused on kind of discover the truth about this situation. It's kind of similar to shows like Making a Murderer or something like that. The way that the showrunners really kind of commit to that style with the confessionals, the establishment shots, and just the dramatic recreations of these crime scenes. There's this whole 3D cutout thing that's kind of centered on whether or not this girl gave this guy a hand job or something like that. And I think it really does feel like those type of shows. They even use Snapchat and Instagram to kind of make them a little bit more relatable to this teen situation. It really does feel like those type of shows. The format of it is so down that if you really weren't paying attention to it and you just kind of stumbled upon it, you would really feel like you're watching one of these types of shows. It just feels so authentic to that type of genre of shows. I just really can't believe that Netflix gave the showrunners all this money in 8 episodes to make this weird of a show, but I'm glad that they did it. It just really feels fresh and unique to me. And the thing about it is that the structure of it is so down that you want to figure out who spray painted the dicks on the cars. So you actually just start binge watching the entire show and it gets really addicting to me. I finish a show in a day and I never do that with Netflix shows. I think the last time I did that was with Love, and that was it. Yeah, this show is really well done. The structure of it, it's so addicting. I really got attached into this mystery and stuff, and given how wacky the premise is, you wouldn't really think that would be the case, but it really is a case with this show. Really well done on that aspect, kind of creating this aesthetic. And I do think the show really does explore the relationships, the dynamics, and the life of high school life and just this community and stuff. To me, it's probably one of the most realistic depictions of high school life that I've ever seen in a movie or TV show. The show has these typical cliched characters that you're used to, the slacker stoner guy, the overachieving honor girl, the jocks, the nerds, the teachers, etc., etc. But the show really kind of unveils the layers behind the facade. You really get to learn about these characters through the confessionals, through the behind the scenes social media stuff. Really unconventional ways of doing this, but you really do get a sense of who these characters are, and they do feel fleshed out, and it makes it feel you can kind of connect to these people, even though it's a comedy mockumentary show. They really do feel like real kids. I think for the most part they did a really good job of casting kids. I think Jimmy Tatro is a little bit too old, but I think he really does sell the monosyllabic delivery of these kids. So he's fine, I guess. But I think all the kids really do feel like kids, and you get invested in their little stories and stuff like that, and what's going to happen and twists and turns and stuff like that. You really do get invested in that type of stuff. And I think that has a lot to do with the dialogue. It doesn't feel underwritten bad teen movies or TV shows that you're used to, or overwritten shows or movies that you're used to. It just feels the right amount of everything. It doesn't feel too forced or too underforced, if you know what I mean. It just feels perfect to me. And I also think that it actually has a nice message about labeling people and stuff and not putting people in boxes and stuff. I think it has a nice message about that. Really, all the aspects of creating this high school community is really well done, really fleshed out in this really kind of unconventional way. I also think the show is pretty funny. I actually laughed quite a bit watching the show, even though the premise is really sophomoric. You do get a lot of dick jokes in this show. I don't think I've ever heard the word dick so many times in a movie or a TV show, but you hear it a lot here. But I think most of it was pretty handled really well, I guess. But I think the moments that I really attached to was like the character moments. Like, you really do get attached to these characters through like the unconventional storytelling. So these characters really do feel fleshed out and not like one dimensional like you would expect from a teen show like this. And I think because they're so fleshed out, you can kind of connect with them on a personal basis that you really wouldn't get with a show like this. Like the teacher, Mr. Kratz, who's played by an actor that was on New Girl, and I recognized him from that show. He's like this like cool teacher that you're just used to. He's the one that's kind of tries so hard to be cool and relatable to these kids that he just comes across like a tryhard. Like he just like says like inappropriate stuff about teachers and students that he really shouldn't be saying. He tries so hard to be like the kids by listening to like Drake and Skrillex, and he just has like a super tryhard like I don't care attitude about him. The character was really well written, a lot of jokes with that character, and I think the actor did a really good job of that role. But I think Dylan, who's played by Jimmy Tatro, is probably my favorite character. He's like that typical like slacker that you kind of used to in teen shows like this. He doesn't care about school. He generally like harasses his teacher, and he just does like obnoxious stuff like his YouTube channel and stuff. I think the delivery and the lines were really well done. Like I was laughing at almost every other line that he was saying. He just has like a really believable delivery about him. And I recognize that dude from 22 Jump Street, and he kind of plays like the same type of character in this. With this show, like you do get a sense of like empathy, and she kind of showcases like his dramatic range, like with some of the later scenes in the show. I thought Tatro did a really good job with this. I hear that he's like a YouTube guy, and I think he did a pretty good job coming across as like this teenager to me. The humor is something that I really responded to. I think it's really based on like the strong character writing that the show has, and just like the relatable high school experience that the show really kind of provides. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this to this level, just the authenticity that it has. To me, I had a few negatives about the show. While I do really appreciate like the pristine documentary style of it, didn't really feel believable that two high school kids would be making a show to this quality. You know what I mean? Like I would have preferred like if it had like a little bit more rough edges to the aesthetic of it, I guess. Like it made a little bit more apparent that it was like two kids making the show, if you know what I mean. I also think that while I do appreciate the messages that the show kind of provided at the end of it, felt like a little heavy-handed and a little bit one-dimensional to me. It was a little bit rushed, I guess, and I think maybe if they had a little bit more time to kind of flesh that out, it would have made it not feel like kind of as jarring to me. It was a nice message, but I think it was a little bit jarring to me. Overall, I do think this is a fantastic show. The commitment to just this aesthetic is just astounding. Like, if you really weren't paying attention to it, you would believe that you were watching like a real show. And the show is like really addicting. Like, you really want to discover that who drew the penises on the cars, and that's not something that you would expect, but you really do get involved with the storyline and stuff. To me, it's one of the most realistic and fleshed out high school like experiences in a movie or TV show. It's just really well done, the character writing and just like these archetypes and stuff like that, and it just feels like you can kind of translate your personal experience into this show, and it just feels just really authentic to me. And I think the show was like genuinely hilarious with like just like a touch of empathy, and that's just like the perfect amount of blend to me. It's not a perfect show. There's a couple things that I thought were kind of messed up, I guess, with the delivery, but overall, this is probably one of my favorite new shows of the year. So overall, I'll give this like a 9 out of 10. Really strong show. I really wasn't expecting this to be as great as it was. If they decide to do another season, I'm definitely on board for whatever they give me. So yeah, those are my thoughts on American Vandal. What are your guys' thoughts? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments what you thought, and thanks for watching. Thanks, guys.